check down a little bit of the mainstream news coverage of the convention from yesterday. And Saagar, I know you're going to be shocked, but over at MSNBC, they loved it. Let's take a listen.
You know, they worked out some of the quirks in the first night that seemed awkward at times. Yeah. Even though the presentations were wonderful in the first night, this was smooth. It was, I felt like as I was watching it, we were over the Biden's house. It was so relatable. Yeah. Who can't relate to Jill Biden? You know, my mom was a college professor. I'm like, wow, I think Jill Biden might be my mom. Yeah. Right? These guys they're so relatable. They're so normal. They're they're cut out of just, middle Americana in a way that the Trumps are just not. They're so not unusual that it's actually comforting to watch them. And
what do you think about the empty classroom as the setting for her speech?
I thought it was perfect because this is the thing that is driving so many parents to distraction and anxiety, the angst over the reopening of
Everybody
schools.
In America. Everybody in America has no idea what to do about this.
No idea. Friends of mine that still have young kids, I'm so thankful my kids are old now. I don't have to worry about it. But, they're terrified. Mm. And I think the fact that she's a teacher and that she can relate to them and that she's so relatable. And the Biden story, it's just beautiful that there was a mommy and a mom, and you'll never replace mommy, but this is our mom. They couldn't have done better, honestly.
Strategically brilliant. Yeah. I think Jill Biden did a very good job.
Great speech.
And I think she's right about the classroom.
Nailed it. Perfect dynamic. Like we were saying before this, you want to talk about the suburban housewives of America?
That's the message right there.
That you give right there.
But it's just so clownish. Like, it's also funny because Joy admits on the second day, she's like, first day had some problems.
Even though she gushed about it the day before.
We didn't hear that from her on the first day when it was, oh my God, Michelle Obama and the epic shade and all of that, thrown at Trump. But, it's just amusing because they go out of their way to be completely over the top in their praise.
Yes.
Even on a night when there were good things that you could say about it. And I think she hits the nail on the head with Jill Biden in the classroom and how that speaks to a lot of parents' anxiety. I think it also speaks to a lot of, look, almost every American has some connection to a classroom setting where you know what fall is supposed to mean and the way it's supposed to feel and the way it's supposed to smell and the sense of loss that you don't have that. But they always go so over the top. It's strategically brilliant. And by the way, is it strategically brilliant to trot out these same old Republicans again, by the way? Is it strategically brilliant to give one of the biggest rising stars in the party, AOC, 60 seconds, and not even to make the case for Joe Biden, but to nominate Bernie Sanders, in a very sort of forgettable 60 seconds? No, I don't think that represents strategic brilliance personally.
Not whatsoever. And look, we have the numbers. We know what America actually thinks about that. Let's throw the ratings up there on the screen. The DNC ratings dropped 25% in live TV from 2016. So why does that matter? Ratings went down 25%, even though the number of Americans, according to the latest Pew polling, says that they think this is the most important election in modern history. Yeah. 82% of Americans say that this election is, what is it? What is the phrase? It's like, this election really matters, the outcome of this election, as compared to like the year 2000 when only like 50% of Americans said that. So despite the fact that Americans are more politically engaged, they're watching more news than ever, they're more anxious than ever, they don't want to watch this stuff.
Many have more time on their hands.
Yeah, many people are like, you know what, I want to watch Modern Family reruns. And I don't blame you, because that's probably more interesting.
I don't blame them either. Yeah. Also, over on ABC News, guess who they had doing their coverage and analysis?
Tell me.
Rahm Emanuel and Chris Christie.
Yes.
I do feel like...
I do like Chris Christie.
Chris Christie is actually, from the right, he's a very good analyst. It's just more to the point of... My political perspective, a leftist perspective, is never portrayed in the media. Like, if you're on the right, if you're a Trump person, you got some people out there now. Chris Christie's going to sort of make the case. You got plenty of people over on Fox News. Like, that perspective is at least represented somewhere. If you're in the neoliberal mainstream, the Democratic Party, my God, you can turn on any channel anytime. They're going to be all over the place, singing your tune. But the disappointments of the left, the perspective of the left in this, especially with all of the national security state people that they marched out there last night, it's always completely absent from the conversation. And then to add to that, it's also been completely erased from the entire convention, as if the, something like 40% of the base that's in line with the ideals of the Bernie Sanders wing of the party just doesn't matter. It doesn't exist. They'd much rather cater to the, suburban housewives of America. America, which I sort of am one, so I guess I get it. But they'd much rather court, as they have for decades now, that white suburban moderate than represent that, certainly on the stage. And in the media, again, the perspective, it's never represented whatsoever. It's like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, that's why I think about all the time are the 100 million Americans who don't vote, disproportionately people of color, people working class, so many, 100 million Americans, people. Right? Mm-hmm. There's a reason. And what I love about it is that the elites and the media, everybody has forgotten them, but they have not forgotten politics. They're deeply engaged in politics today more than they ever have been. They're like crying out, being like, please notice us, please do something for us. And nobody wants to do it. I'm not going to pretend that the Republicans are doing it right now. I don't think the Democrats are doing it right now either. If I had to guess, voter participation will go up, but I don't think it should go up by the magnitude of what it might have in 1932 or in 1918, different times of crisis, or 1914, different times of crisis in American history. And that's very sad to me. It really is.
I was just reading before we came on the air, David Sturda has a new piece up over at his newsletter. And it's very soul searching. He's been reading, he's been thinking, doing all these things that we're doing, searching the depths of our soul, right? And he made this point, though, that really landed for me, and I think speaks to what is so fake and phony and dissonant about that MSNBC clip, is that if you're going to vote for Joe Biden, you're supposed to pretend like you're excited.
Yes.
It's not enough to just be like, all right, I'm going to go in, I'm going to cast my ballot. I'm not excited about it. Things are not pretty in the country. Not super hopeful about what this new era is going to bring, because frankly, it's going to look a lot like the old era, right? And we know what that brought. But there's this phony level of ginned up excitement that you're supposed to feel. And so when you see people out there, yesterday we covered Paul Begala being like, oh my God, Michelle Obama's speech was the greatest since Ronald Reagan. You're like, it's just be real, be honest, stop being fake, stop pretending like this is the most amazing thing ever. It's not. It's awkward, right? The pandemic era convention has a lot of kinks that it needs to work out. It's uncomfortable at times. There's a lot of glitches. It's hard to deliver something to camera in the same way that it would land at an audience. It's not something that many of these people are practiced at. Just be freaking honest about it, but instead they have to go so over the top and pretend like this is the most magnificent production of all time, when we all know the truth.
Yeah, Americans say, by 2/3 of the people who support Joe Biden say one thing: we are supporting him because he's not Trump. They're not excited to vote for Joe Biden.
Right.
He has the lowest enthusiasm of a Democratic nominee in history. But like you said, they have to pretend. They have to gaslight. Maybe what I think it is self-delusion. I think they have to delude themselves into thinking that this is the greatest speech since Ronald Reagan or whatever, because it's the only thing that animates some of their crazy things that they say on television. They can't be honest. They have to look at it as like this titanic battle between good and evil and all this. But they don't see it in the same stakes as actual American citizens, which skews the coverage, makes it dishonest. It's gaslighting at the highest degree. Nobody could look at what happened last night. I thought Jill Biden's speech was great. I watched some of it. The fact she's a school education professor, I think, or school teacher, had taught school or whatever in an empty classroom, phenomenal, great presentation. But I'm not going to be talking. I'm not even going to remember it 3 years from now. And why should we pretend otherwise?
Yeah, I think she made what is the best affirmative case for Joe Biden, which is this person-to-person empathy.
Yeah, that's
that is when he's at his best, and that is the best. You can't make a policy case. No. You can't make a visionary case. You can't make even a managerial competence case, right? But you can make the empathy case. And so what I think was good about that was it was actually honest in a sea of cases that are being made for Joe Biden that are completely dishonest. Mm-hmm. When people go out and they're like, oh, Joe Biden is going to be amazing for racial justice. You're like, come on. I mean, it's just not believable. So on the one hand, I think the best moments have been sort of the most honest. I would say, Bernie Sanders kind of hit the mark on that too, because he didn't overpromise. He didn't go in the it's going to be FDR again. He didn't say that thing. He made a very modest policy case for Joe that was somewhat believable. He made the case against Trump, certainly, which is the reason why many people are going to bring themselves to the ballot box to vote for Joe. But, if you watch the television news coverage, you think that this was all just so incredible and so uplifting and so inspiring. And I don't think that that is the way it's landing for most people.
All right.
More Rising for you after this.